What's up, fellow camera nerds? Got here my red Komodo-X build, and I think I've finally got it set up for my everyday build. Like, this is the way it's kind of configured right now is my starter base rig, and then I would scale it up or down depending on the production needs. But this is like kind of how I built it and kind of have it ready for every shoot. So let's go about it and talk about all the different goodies on here. And we'll just kind of start from the back and then kind of work our way towards the front. And then we'll talk about some neat aspects of what I've got with the different parts and kind of how I will scale it up and down. So that said, starting from the back, I've got V-mount batteries, and the cool thing is the Komodo-X has the built-in V-mount. So I typically use these Core SWX. These are the nano micro, and the reason why I like these batteries is because it transmits the battery info to the display so you can see the battery percentage. So it's pretty neat to have that. And then I also have two other batteries, a 150 watt and another 98 watt hour battery that are on Core, so they won't transmit battery info, but you can still read the voltage display there, so you can kind of know when you're getting low. But really the three batteries from Core that I have will pretty much get me through an entire production day. And the cool thing is when you go on lunch, you can actually plug the AC power in and it'll charge the battery. So while you're out, the battery's charging, and that's great. And then you can bring your other battery, dual battery charger, and then have three batteries charging at the same time. Now, moving on to media real quick, I use the CF Express Type B cards, the red branded Angelbird cards. This is a 1 terabyte, which is pretty new and pretty affordable. I was pretty surprised when they released the price on this. I would definitely not recommend using anything other than approved media from Red because they do a lot of testing. So enough on media, and kind of moving up where we can kind of see the core of the kit. And this is all kind of built around the bright Tangerine Komodo/Komodo-X Leftfield Advanced kit. So that's all what this is. And then I have added the bright Tangerine rods as well, which I really like, super lightweight and strong. So with it, we'll kind of start with the bottom and move our way up. So with the Leftfield system, basically you get this dovetail plate, which is what this tripod plate is attached to, and then you get the Leftfield universal base plate, which holds the rods, and then you get this little riser that has a DJI RS2, RS3 compatible plate with it, and then you actually get the tripod plate, which is the DJI RS2 or RS3 plate. So it's kind of cool because you can kind of transfer this over to the gimbal if you want to, which is really sweet. And the thing I like about this is you have a couple of different options to remove it from the tripod if you want. So you could either just take it all off the tripod, or you could take it off the dovetail plate using this little lever right here, or you could slide it off the riser plate to shed a few ounces and have a little bit more lightweight of a rig. So depending on what I've got connected to the camera, if it's usually in this configuration, I'll just slide it off the riser to save a little bit of weight and a little bit of bulk. Now on the sides, on both the left and the right, I have the side plates, and on the operator side, I just have a cold shoe adapter here so that I can mount, anything from mics to timecode boxes or whatever on this side. And then on the other side, I have it, and I don't use it quite as often, but I have it here just in case that the production calls for it. I can, put on the bright Tangerine side plate and remove the outrigger handle if I need to mount a bunch of stuff to it. And then moving up a little bit, we have the DSMC3 monitor, which really honestly, what makes this whole system so minimal and frictionless. And the reason being is because, well, it's just got one cable. That's the only thing that you need to power the monitor and send the video signal out. And the monitor is on a 15mm rod here, so you could tighten this, loosen this. You can actually take it off and relocate it if you want to, and you can get a longer RMI cable, which is nice. So it tilts and it swivels and all that stuff, so it's really great. And I've got a couple of different buttons right here that I've mapped to, like the two buttons that are sticking out a little bit more. I've got set to toggle false color on and off, and focus peaking on and off for the other one. And then you have camera control on here as well, so you don't necessarily need to use the onboard monitor, which is also, it's a really good monitor. Like the screen on here is much more snappier, and I think it has to do with the processing power of the camera than it is on the original Komodo. I had some complaints about that. You can see in my Komodo long-term review, but this is a good screen to use, but using this is obviously much more preferred, and you get a bigger screen and you have all the information that you need on it. So such an awesome monitor, really long-winded on there, but this really makes this whole system so frictionless and just such a joy to use. So on top of that, I got a lot of questions about this. I posted a picture on Instagram when I was out on a shoot, and I think I took it from like this angle right here, and a lot of people were like, what's that riser in between the top handle and the DSMC3 monitor base? Well, it's not really a riser necessarily, I guess it acts as one, but it's the outrigger handle, and this is such a nice handle. It's kind of expensive for what it is. It's really just a handle with a button to toggle record on and off, but I run like this so often where one hand is on the handle and the other is on the lens and pull and focus and all that, and just being able to trigger record without having to move my hand anywhere to any of the record buttons is just, it's so nice, and it's just less distracting, and again adds to that frictionless experience of running the Komodo-X. And the other thing is, like, it's just super well built. It's super solid. It is cableless. The monitor mount has pins, pass-through pins on it, so you're able to still trigger record with it. And then on top of that, I've got the Nato rail for Bright Tangerine, part of the Leftfield kit, on top of the outrigger handle. And the reason why I have this Nato rail here is to be able to use the Bright Tangerine top handle. And the reason why this is so nice is either for low angle shots, or it's just more comfortable to carry in between takes or anything like that. Or if I am running an easy rig, then I can obviously attach the easy rig to the top handle via different methods depending on what the setup is. And then if I want to, I could just take the Nato rail off if I don't need the Nato rail. So that's what we got there. So moving on, moving a little forward, I got so many questions about this next piece right here, and this is the lens adapter. Not really the adapter, but the VND. So what this is this is the Canon, just the Canon OEM variable ND drop-in filter adapter, or whatever they call it. But instead of the Canon VND, I have the Bright Tangerine VND, because the Canon one is absolutely garbage. It's so bad. And then when you get to the very end, it basically turns, it's basically a day for night filter on your camera. So if you are going for a day for night look, that might be a good variable ND to choose from. But this one is much cleaner, and it's cleaner all the way through, and it doesn't go day for night at the very end, and you don't get any IR contamination or anything like that when you are using it with the Komodo-X or the Komodo. So highly recommend ordering one of these if you have the VND adapter. So I've got that, and then I've also got the focal reducer, the Canon focal reducer, and then the standard pass-through one. So it just depends on the needs of the production, depends on what I'm looking for in the kit, what lens choices, all that stuff. So that's kind of what I got there. In front of that, I have the Sigma 24-70 Art. It's a 2.8 EF lens. It's a great lens. I just have this lens on here because one of my most used lenses. I have a couple RF lenses that I use quite a bit as well, but that's what I've got here. And then on that, I have the small rig clamp on matte box, which, that was obnoxious, which you can add trays on here to add different filters, or IR filters, or IR cut filters, or ND filters, or whatever. But a lot of times what I'll use this for is just for flagging light, so I don't get any kind of flares or anything like that if I want to avoid those. So that's typically what I use for that. If I don't need it, then I will simply just remove it, but it is part of the kit, and it's kind of how things go for, you know, when I show up on set. So I know that I'm all set for all scenarios. So that is kind of the basis of my kit. That's kind of how I run and like have my camera ready to rip, like ready to go before any shoot. That way I can scale it up or down depending on the needs of the production pretty quickly. So that said, I want to talk about like scaling this down a little bit. So if I don't need all this stuff, the thing I love about this bright Tangerine kit is there's so many different ways to scale it down. So like, for example, you can take the rails off right here and you've just got this base plate down at the bottom, and then quickly take the Nato rail off if I want to, strip it down to just this, and it's a much more lightweight rig. And then I always kind of just keep this top handle in my pocket anyways, because I find myself needing to take this on and off quite a bit depending on what's going on. But that's this a little bit more stripped down. And if I'm gonna strip this down even more, what I'll actually do is I'll take everything off except for the outrigger handle. I'll just have the outrigger handle on, and then a little cold shoe adapter, and then a cell phone mount. And then I'll just plug my phone in with the USB connection here on the back and be able to just use my phone as a monitor, which is pretty cool. And it's super low key, and I mean, it's still a pretty frictionless system. You literally still just have one cable and that is it. Now the cool thing is if you have an original Komodo and maybe you want to sell that body to get a Komodo-X, or if you kind of have your Komodo-X and a Komodo, but your Komodo was originally like kind of set up as an A-cam setup and you have the Leftfield kit for your Komodo, good news, everything's gonna be able to transition over to Komodo-X with the exception of this base plate here. This is the only thing you would need to purchase that originally came with the Komodo. This is the only thing you need to purchase to be able to get it up and running with your Komodo-X. I think they've since changed the Komodo-X kit to just have this base plate here, which is great. So this could transfer between Komodo and Komodo-X, no problem. So super awesome there that everything transfers over, because, you know, this is a pretty expensive camera, and you know, if you're going to sell the camera body, just sell the camera body and move all your parts over to your Komodo-X. Well, that is going to wrap it up for this rig build video. Hope you found it helpful or useful. I will link all the parts down in the description below so you can kind of build out and piece out how you want to build out your Komodo-X. Or if you don't have a Komodo-X, I highly recommend you don't buy any of these parts because it would be completely useless to you. So yeah, but I appreciate you hanging around even if you don't have a Komodo-X, because, you know, us camera nerds, we just like watching people talk about their camera and the different parts that they use to build it out. So this is my super frictionless, I'm gonna call it like my frictionless Komodo-X rig, is what we'll call it. Appreciate you watching, and if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below and I'll answer to the best of my abilities. Appreciate you watching and hope to catch you in the next one. Listen.